Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This big guy is the Kansept Delta. Big old titanium frame lock. This knife will be listed right down in the description. As well as its other variants, because this is not the only color setup and finish setup that it comes in, so you can check those out. I will also link Kansept knives in general. Generally speaking, I've had a really good experience with Kansept knives. Their quality is spot on. They use premium materials. These are expensive knives, but you are getting what you're paying for, absolutely. So you can check them out right down in the description. Thank you, Kansept Knives, for sending this along. They actually sent me a whole bunch of models, so I appreciate that, but that's where this knife came from. Thank you so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. If you're enjoying the daily knife content on this channel and you'd like to support me as well, there's a link for my Patreon right down in the description. Get your hands on some of those cool stickers. And please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Big knife, not a small knife. Overall length, the Delta coming in at 8. Just about 8. And it's like 8.4. Just about 8.5 inches overall. Blade length is coming in at, we're going to call that about 3.6 inches. And the cutting edge is also 3.6 inches because of where that ends down here. How about some size comparisons? Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. The Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches. Overall, you can see there, yeah, these two appear to be almost exact. We're at an angle here, right? So it looks bigger than the Rat, but it's just slightly smaller. How about up against the Spyderco PM2, Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. And last but not least, the Benchmade Mini Griptilian coming in at 6.75 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? Much like other Kansepts, it's pretty good. This one has the benefit of having a large, heavy blade, so the action is going to be very nearly fall shut right out of the box. That's truthfully how, I mean, seriously, this is brand new. It's basically going to be, you know, something that will achieve fall shut action if you just keep playing with it. I got to point this out here. The flipper tab works if you're going to light switch it, right? And you can also push button it. If you're clear back here, it'll do that. But I noticed something when I went to, if I grabbed it about like this, and I wanted to see, you know, how's the action if I just kind of pull down on it a bit. Something happens periodically where my finger actually lands in this area right here, and it stops the blade. Now that I'm aware of that, I actually have to try to do it. But I did that a couple of times on accident, and I was like, dang it. And sometimes it slips off of it, and this is what happens as the blade comes around. This area kind of nips my finger a little bit. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of annoying. Why is this area here? I mean, kind of like right there, that was the worst of it. It actually pinched me a little bit there. Not a big deal, right? Can this be front flipped? Yes, it can. If you get it right, there you go. You can do it. This is not a comfortable front flipper. And it can be flipped once you kind of figure out what you're doing with it, right? Light switching it, it's fine. I just find it to be kind of awkward in terms of deployment. Now, you can also deploy it with the thumb studs. They are pretty well placed, right? So, this knife lets you find a way to deploy it. This is a huge front flipper. Not the most comfortable front flipper ever, right? Usually, it's funny, like there's a sweet spot for, and while I'm doing this, I'm finding that I'm actually getting pinched a little bit by the flipper tab just to get into an optimal position to do it. So the thumb studs are the least frustrating to use. The flipper tab's all right once you figure it out. The front flipper is a little bit painful, and there's some awkwardness. I don't know. It's not my favorite thing in the deployment department, right? But you will adapt to it. As is the case with all things, you will adapt to this knife. It's just not super friendly right out of the gate. But the action is smooth. Absolutely. There's no question of quality in terms of the action itself, like the detent strength and, you know, it flying out. It'll do that. It's just a bit, it's a bit weird, right? Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them down in the description. I'm going to guess the pivot is a T8. Boy, it might be a little bigger. It is. The pivot's going to be a T10. Let me get that out and just check it for you guys here real quick. Yeah, T10. Pivot. T10. Body screws, not even going to check them because they're T6. That seems to be the case with most Kansept knives. There are a couple out there that are using T8. I don't like T6. The heads are a little bit easier to strip, right? And the bits can also, the teeth can wear away. Just be careful. It's not a deal breaker. Just be careful. There's minimal hardware here. 2 screws holding in the backspacer. 1 extra screw holding in the pocket clip, right? It's not that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here, it's really not that thick. It's just marginally thicker than the Spyderco Para 3. But on the inside here, as far as I know, no, we do have milling. We do. It just feels really heavy. There is milling on the inside of the titanium. Let's do carry profile. Length and height up against 2 knives that are a bit awkward in the pocket that nobody ever really complains about, the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, this is long. Little, maybe exactly as long as the PM2 when closed, and in terms of height, honestly, yeah, it actually is a little bit taller. From here to here, this maximum height between these 2 points is a little bit taller than the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. That's going to make it a little bit cumbersome in the pocket. Actually, quite a bit, very cumbersome for some people. Not that big of a deal if you carry larger knives. Blade stock thickness on this guy, I'm going to guess that's about 155 thousandths, maybe more. It actually might be more like 165 thousandths. This is definitely a big knife. Blade stock thickness coming in, okay, no, 155 thousandths. It just looks really big. So fairly thick blade, large blade, right? Extra weight in the length of the blade. Not, big scales, fairly thick titanium scales, right? But they're milled out. What's this gonna weigh? 5.5 to 6 ounces. Okay, there you go, 5.4 ounces. So it's within my parameters, right? It's a bit wide in some areas. This isn't too different from a lot of other types of full-size knives that are out there. I just find it a little bit more awkward. Some people who, carry larger knives are going to find it a little bit weird in the pocket. But for the most part, if you carry a full-size knife, it's probably isn't going to bother you. For those of you who cannot legally carry this, obviously that's going to be a problem. And for people who carry smaller knives in general, or lighter weight knives like the Spyderco Para 3 lightweight or bug outs, this is obviously not going to be your cup of tea. This knife is going to be more at home in jeans, full-size pants, a thicker, heavy-duty pant material, not fitted khakis, not athletic shorts, not, leather pants, stuff like that. So, there you go. Let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy here. So what we have is this, it's actually a nice, in this case we have a gold anodized pivot collar. We've got titanium here that's been bead blasted. Looks alright. It's kind of tactical, aggressive, but it's shiny also. When I say tactical on this channel, I mean it kind of as a joke, right? It has a tactical look about it. What does tactical mean? It means whatever you want it to be. People tell me all the time, they reference the book, The Tactical Foley Knife, written by, oh my god, I'm so dumb, Terzuola, Bob Terzuola. I know that he had a specific definition for it, or has defined it, and it does actually have a specific meaning. But in terms of today's modern knife world, the term tactical, that is a marketing term. It's a loosely defined term that basically just means looks really cool. That's what that means nowadays, right? So that's what people are. So that's kind of what I mean when I say this. Nothing against Bob Terzuola. Obviously, that guy knew what he was talking about and designs a wonderful knife and was an excellent knife maker. But yeah. Anyways, the little lines here. Okay, honestly this didn't need to be there. Like sometimes I say like, the lines there break up the otherwise very boring and plain canvas that is the scale, right? But in this case, it's like there's enough going on with the lines. I mean, for me personally, I don't need that there. I'd actually prefer that they weren't there. They don't do anything. As far as ergonomics go on this guy, this is a little bit weird, truthfully. We have this huge area in here, right? So it's like, oh, it's big enough for 2 fingers. Oh, not really. It's kind of squish my fingers. All right, well, I'll put 1 finger in there. Oh, I'm kind of a ways from the blade. Maybe I'll scoot up. Now I'm kind of... It's weird. I mean, either you have to have these two fingers, I don't have huge hands, right? I wear an XL glove, I say this all the time, slightly, ever so slightly larger than the average male's hand, right? So you either have to have really small fingers or one gigantic sausage finger, in which case you're definitely going to be slipping off the back end of this. The most comfortable way to hold this is either like this or just squeeze. It's weird. The ergonomic lines on this thing are weird. I don't understand, right? The corners are nicely knocked down, right? There's no sharpness, anything like that. Nothing aggressive other than the tip of the pocket clip, which is definitely pointy, but yeah, ergonomic lines are weird, man. I think it adds to the weirdness of the positioning of the flipper tab and the shape of the front flipper. And you can see I'm having trouble with this. I don't normally have trouble with it, right? You can do it. You'll adapt to it, right? I just got it there. I'm sure not being under a camera would help, but normally I don't have an issue with that. Satin finish on the blade. I'm just tired of these just belt satin finishes. I like Kansept's tumbling. Some people really like satin finishes, right? In any case, it doesn't matter because the corners are still, like on the blade here, the corners off the spine are nicely knocked down. As per usual, we have Kansept's logo, which is fine, and then we have K1011A1, which doesn't need to be there. I'm sure they have their reasons, but I don't like it. S35VN. On this side, it says Jelly Jerry Design. He's actually, I'm becoming more familiar with his work, but all of his designs are completely and totally different, so I wouldn't necessarily be able to pick one out of a bunch, but okay. That's fine that that's there. And then it says Delta in a very plain font. We don't need to see that, right? The maker's logo, the brands, right, or the company, and then the steel. That's all we need on there. We don't need really anything else. I say that every single time I review a Kansept. It is what it is. Thumb studs are fine. They are definitely in the cutting path, though. Absolutely. Quite a bit. Awkwardly in the cutting path. It's weird. Yeah, you lose some blade. I don't know. There's a sharpening choil here. You lose some blade. There's still plenty of blade to use, right? Why is it in the cutting path? It's just in a weird position like a lot of the other stuff on this knife. Everything is just positioned very oddly. We have a flat that carries out about 40% the length of the blade. The swedge looks nice. This is a recurve Tanto? A recurve Japanese Tanto? I mean, it's definitely two completely separate edges, right? And I don't know exactly what we're going to call this. A recurve drop point with a pseudo Tanto. I don't know. Is this going to be, a good cutter? I mean, honestly, down behind the edge, it's relatively thin, right? It's definitely going to get the job done. S35VN's a great steel. I don't think Kansept has an issue with their heat treatment, right? So the blade is going to be well done. I don't like recurves of any type, and I prefer a continuous edge, personally, because it's easier to sharpen for me. But I'm a novice, right? And a lot of people watching are not novice sharpeners, and probably could find more or less use with this blade shape for different types of scenarios. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You have to really, really like it, and, be confident in sharpening something like this down the road when it does go dull. But the blade is done well. For what it is, the blade is done well. I don't have issues with the quality. I mean, the final got me again. You see that? It stopped me there. It's left-handed. That's organic. It's just where my fingers want to go. My thing with deployment is I need to be able to reach for the knife and deploy it without thinking about it at all. Because in a situation where I've got one hand busy or I'm thinking about the task at hand, the knife needs to deploy and be. I don't want to have to dick around with making sure. I get it. This finger needs to be here. This finger needs to be here. Brace and 3, 2, 1. Launch. I don't want to do that. I want to just fire it. That's how I feel about that. We got a lanyard hole back here for lanyard people, and it's part of the backspacer, so that's fine. The backspacer looks nice, not anything too crazy going on here, right? And it is out of the way of the pocket clip, so I appreciate that. The pocket clip carries in a perfectly acceptable position. I think this is not laid into the titanium. It's sitting on top. Maybe? Boy, it sure feels like at least part of it, maybe underneath the part that we can't see, is actually lipped into the titanium. It doesn't move, right? Single screw and it's not moving. It makes me think something is actually laid under, right? A slot's milled and there's a part of this clip, even though it looks like it's sitting on top of it. I think some part of this clip that we can't see is nested inside the titanium. In any case, it doesn't move. Pocket clip goes good enough, with the design. it's pointy back here, right? Not really that big of a deal. The pocket clip really doesn't bother me, right? It's just these pointy clips. Why? Why do we make them pointy, right? Not that big of a deal. It does have a ramp. It doesn't do the, thing where it comes up and turns into a bill, which I don't like, and I see that on a lot of Kansept knives, but it's okay. It'll go over the pants, in different pocket seam thicknesses. Should be able to get it in and out with one hand, and the surface is nice and smooth, so I don't have an issue with that. It does have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, which is fine. And that's what we expect in today's modern knife world. And then the blade is perfectly centered, and where's your stop pin? I always forget to, the stop pin does follow the blade. I don't know if we're going to be able to see that. Where are you, buddy? It's right here. Can we see it? Let me get the flashlight. I don't think we're going to be able to see it. Just barely. It's right here. You can just barely see it reflecting in there. It does follow the blade, so it'll act as external stops do that brace on the titanium instead of the blade bracing on a single bar. Right, the bar actually rests against either side of the titanium. It's a little bit more durable setup than a standard stop pin, but that's fine. It's totally hidden, right? These different types of stop pins, right? Whether it's back here or it's external out here or it's internal and it's fixed or it's internal and it follows the blade, it's all an acceptable stop pin setup. This is just one of the more durable setups. What's your lockup percentage coming in at? Something like 30% or so. No blade play, up, down, left, or right. That's what I expect, right? What does this come in at? Right around $200, I think maybe $210, something like that. There's a few different variants, though, so the price, I think, varies a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is not my favorite Kansept. I think this is my least favorite one. And truthfully, the design, the look of it is all right. If this area right here made more sense with the human hand, if it just was more comfortable to get... I want to be able to get as close as I can to the blade, but I also want my hand to be comfortable. I'm getting kind of smashed in here. It's kind of the issue that I have with the AR-75, even though I bought that knife, the Strider AR-75. It has this massive open choil in here, right? You try to put two fingers in, it's not quite enough room. It's way too much room for one finger, so it's just weird, right? Flipper tab, you can figure it out, but gosh, every now and then I mess up and it does this thing where it traps my finger right here, right? It's weird. Front flipper, I just shaved my fingernail there. Front flipper is, you'll figure it out, but it's a little bit awkward, and you're going to find that you're pinching yourself back here periodically, and it's just, the rest of my hand is not really sure where to brace, right? Thumb studs are okay. It's just weird. Pocket clip is a little bit pointy, right? I don't know, I could do without the lines right there. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the reverse recurve, but that's a personal thing. As far as materials and fit and finish, this thing is beautiful. There's no issue here with fit and finish. It's in terms of, it's the ergonomic design and the placements and design of the flipper tab and the front flipper, right? It's just awkward. I feel like I'm going to be fiddling around with this knife, trying to get my hands into the best position or constantly changing the position of my hand while I'm cutting. And I'm also going to have to think too much about deploying it when I do. I mean, truthfully, the best way to flip it is just to light switch it, right? And then if you do that, you're going to be fine. But if I happen to approach it at the wrong place, I'm going to do this. If I go to front flip it, it's just going to be a little bit cumbersome, right? On top of that, this is a big, heavy knife. It is an awkward knife in the pocket, right? So it's got to get those other things right. Some people are going to disagree with me, right? But truthfully, this is just my favorite, right? If you like it, as far as the materials and the fit and finish and stuff, I mean, you're good. If you like how this looks, you can overlook what I'm saying, then yeah, go ahead. You're probably going to be really happy with it. But I mean, if I'm going to spend, $200 to $210 on a knife, honestly, I think these come in between $195 and $210, depending on the configuration. If I'm going to spend that much, I want to get that other stuff right. Even though I'm contradicting myself, having spent $600 on the Strider AR-75 that has the same awkward choice, right? But that's got that does a lot of other stuff right. This does just a little bit too much wrong for me to say that it's recommendable. Feel free to check it out. You can wave me off if you want to. That's fine. You guys do what you want. I'm still going to link this down below, right? But sometimes I'm just not feeling a knife, and that's where we're at today. I'm just not feeling this one. Sorry. It's not something I'm going to put on any playlist or anything like that. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today. Thank you again, Kansept, for letting me check this out. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.